Hey, I'm Joe Girardi,
I'm Dante Girardi,
and you're listening to
the Step Up Podcast.
What's up, guys? This is your host Nelly in the building. I got my host Ali.
What's going on?
I got home team, a special guest in there, somebody that means a lot to me. I got Dante Girardi and his father Joe Girardi. Man, it's great to have you guys on this podcast. Really want to get into the baseball side of it. Obviously, we've known each other from that travel ball world and perfect game. Let's talk about the journey. You know, you were at, what was it? Your high school with Alan Kunqua. I believe it was Calvary Christian. One of the best schools in the nation at that time. You guys were loaded, you had a bunch of 90-plus arms. How did that transition for you as a player going into a freshman year? Because we all know you started travel ball late, right? So talk to me about that, Dante.
How old's late? Like, how old were you?
I started in high school. Yeah, so, well, I played three sports, so that obviously had something to do with it, but I didn't even play baseball in Florida until my freshman year, so that was part of the issue. There really was no travel ball. But yeah, my freshman year, I got to Florida. Kunkel, took me under his wing, and I got to be a part of some really good teams, which helped a lot. Just seeing those guys playing travel ball and how important it was, early on. I think that's what kind of led me down that road, and obviously I followed Kunkel to you guys, the great coach he was, and still is, and that's how I started my travel ball experience. And I wasn't huge on it to start because I had never done it.
Didn't understand
very
it.
quickly it became, one of those things. Yeah, one of those things you look forward to.
That's awesome. So, I mean,
I want to touch on the three.
Go
Sorry
ahead.
to cut you
Go
off. I
ahead.
want to touch on the three-sport athlete thing. So you played basketball.
Baseball, basketball, and football.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually, believe it or not, I wasn't allowed to just play baseball. I had to play three sports.
That's kind of what I wanted to ask about.
Yeah,
what it was.
athlete.
Yeah.
But did you love all three sports?
Yeah.
Still there.
You were good at it.
Well,
Yeah.
it's so beneficial.
Yes.
We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
Just as an athlete, it's
Yeah, we talked about our Mobons being an athlete is
I
really what
think
they look
now, after being, a retired athlete, I think I see the importance of it more than ever.
Yeah.
Just keeping your body in shape in so many different ways, and you just move so differently in those sports that it's really important because baseball is unique.
for. It is unique. It's a special environment. I've learned that myself.
well. I think it carries over to like the physical aspect of it. We've talked about that strengthening muscles that you may not touch in baseball, but also I think carrying over just the mental aspect and the.
Well, the three sports guys, football works out certain, muscles. Same with basketball, cardio more than baseball. And then you got the baseball. We got, we worry about certain body parts, not all.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Let me get to you, Joe. Being a dad, obviously a manager, your life that you live, pro ball player, World Series guy. When you had your son, did you put the pressure on him? Did you try to drive him away from baseball, or you were just like, go do what you do?
No, I told him to do what you want to do. Play the sport that you love. And he loved baseball, but he also loved football. He loved the physicality of it. And my first love was actually football. So I didn't want him to try to be me. Yeah. I wanted him to be himself and to find out where his passion is, because I think that's really important, because to be successful in anything you do, you got to have a passion for it, because it takes a lot of work. So if you're going to be a great baseball player, it takes a lot of work. And if you don't love it, it's not going to happen. So I told him, go find out what you love to do and pursue it.
That's awesome. He ended up being a D1 player, got to play a great career. Kid was, I got to coach him myself. Savage, workaholic, never stop. You messed around in the cage, he was letting you know. He was a team captain when it comes to that. So in that household of yours, obviously you guys are, you got your daughter right now. She's blowing up. Your sister, nasty at basketball, every offer in the world. I mean, it's just an athlete home. Is it something you preach through in character? Are you trying to guide them a certain way in life or in sports?
Well, we thought it was important that they played a sport, that they played an instrument, and that they just were well-rounded. And sports was really important to myself and to my wife, Kim, who was a tennis player. She loved tennis, and she tried to steer them all towards tennis, but it didn't quite happen. But she always loved the game of baseball, too. She used to go to the ballpark with her father and her grandfather. So it was something that she grew up on. So I think sports was always important to both of us, and we instilled that into our children.
Wow, that's awesome. Dante, did you feel any pressure? Obviously, you grew up in this type of world, that it was a little different from everybody else. Obviously, we dealt with some of those guys, Dante Pachette, seniors kid and all that good stuff. Did you felt that in travel ball or in high school because of who he was?
I don't know if pressure is the right word because he didn't put any on me, so I think that probably is the wrong word. But I think in the back of your mind, you do always want to make him proud just because of, everything that he's accomplished.
It's motivation.
Yeah, I think you always do realize, you always see there's some eyes on you a little bit more than usual, when the lineups come out and stuff like that, people know your last name. But I don't think it was pressure, and there's so much good that comes from that too as well. So you take the good with the bad.
Well, I mean, you were playing baseball in New York, so I figured that had to be a little.
Believe it or not, it was actually worse in other sports.
Really?
For me. In Florida, once I got to Florida my freshman year, I heard it a little bit, but actually basketball was the worst, which is I still to this day don't understand. But yeah, basketball was the worst.
They were chirping at you, huh?
Always in basketball. Football's tough, It's
Football's football.
Yeah, football's football. But in basketball, it was, it was probably the worst, because you're so close to everybody, and
personal.
yeah. So I think
it helped him develop a mental toughness, though, is what it did. And he had to learn to block out the outside noises, which I think is really important when you think about it. Because there's not only the outside noise from the fans and what the media writes about you, but it's also what, goes on inside of your own head, right? Like, because our game is so tough. The game of baseball is so tough. Paul O'Neill used to go home and say, can a man forget how to hit in a week? And this guy'd be hitting 320. I mean, that's what this game does to you. It keeps you up at night. So it helped him develop a mental toughness.
That's awesome.
What's something that your dad has spoken to you that kind of to this day he talks about hearing stuff in our head that he
Like
said to
mentally?
you? Yeah, and you just kind of, your dad spoke it over you and it kind of stuck with you?
there's a lot. We never actually spoke, believe it or not. Like, very rarely would we speak fundamentals of any sport. He would dish that off to the coaches. He'd go through the coaches to get to me, which I think is a really important lesson as a parent. If someone who's won, multiple World Series at different levels and been super successful, he knew that as a father.
You still know how to get to your kid.
He couldn't get to me at the time, and I wish I would have listened. But mentally, we'd always talk about situations, and I think just walking me through each situation and like being able to help me understand wow, that was really not smart, but I'm going to make you understand why, instead of just saying that was a stupid decision. Yeah, so I think it was I don't think it was one thing. I think it was his approach that I really appreciate more than anything.
I think I always tried to, no matter what happened in the game, to give him positive reinforcement the night of the game. And then the next day I would try to bring up situations and ask him what he was thinking so he would take ownership of what he did. Because maybe his thought process was actually good.
Yeah.
He just got out executed. I mean, that happens because the other team's actually trying too.
Yeah.
So I always tried to be really encouraging, no matter what it was. If he had a walk or he made a really good play in the field and he could have been 0 for 4 with 2 strikeouts. Dante, that play you made in the field was fantastic. Like,
Yeah, you're in the car and pissed, and he's
trying to be, because I know how negative the game can be because we struggle so much. And I just wanted him to feel good about himself.
That's awesome. You talk about a play. I still remember a play in WWBA where you came from second base all the way and you got the guy out at third. You slid into him, caught the ball, we threw it behind him, and he ran right into it, and we got off that field and we won that game. One of my best memories we had, and that was an amazing play. Again, you came across the field. You weren't supposed to be there. Remember, our catcher just threw the ball and you just slid into him. So, I mean, that's awesome. So, Joe, when you see your kid now, obviously he's successful, he's got gear coming out, he's trying to impact the youth. Is that something you instilled in him? Or is that something you learned on your own?
Well, I think my wife and I have always tried to give back because we feel that we've been so blessed, and we've always tried to help people have success. One of my favorite things to watch is to see people have success. They don't think they can do it, or like I remember managing the Marlins when we started off 11-31, and there were guys that were really young. I mean, we had 23 rookies, and all of a sudden they started to figure it out. And that was my favorite part, them realizing they were good enough to play at this level, and they started having success. And a lot of guys went on to have really, really good careers. So for me and my wife, that's important to us, to see people grow and have success. And we've always tried to give back. And our kids saw that, whether it was monetary, whether it was just time or whatever it was. And I think it's important because I think through his experiences, he's come up with this idea. It was the experience in school and seeing what kids didn't have, and that's where the idea was born.
That's awesome.
Well, it's cool to hear you say, too, like, you gave credit to that he led by example, that even though you may have not been receptive to what he could have spoken to as a kid, you walked in a way, it sounds like you and your wife parented your children in a way that just motivated them to want to be successful, believe in themselves.
Yeah.
Who do you think someone in your life that kind of motivated you to believe in yourself?
Well, I can go back to Dave Rogers, my Little League coach. 10 years old, and it was 11 and 12-year-old all-star team, and he picked me over a 12-year-old. Caused some,
Friction a little bit.
in the town, right? But he showed the importance of showing someone you believe in them. And that's what we've always tried to do to our kids. My parents always believed in us and pushed us to be the best that we could. And I saw them work really hard to give us every opportunity they could to allow us to be successful, right? And that meant so much to me. And that's what we're trying to do with our kids and other people. Give them the opportunity to be successful.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, Dante, the Girardi Sports to you, what does that mean? Like, what is this in your meaning? What is it, when you go and you sell pitch it and you want them to know, what does this mean to you, honestly?
Couple things. One, I think, in today's world, even, when I was playing 4 or 5 years ago, gear means a lot, right? Having new gear, I think, is really important, but it's super expensive. So that was from the start. When I started this, I said to my partner, I said, listen, this stuff's really expensive. There's no chance that every family can afford this stuff, but I don't want to sacrifice the quality. So how can we combine those, which is really challenging because when you sacrifice price, usually you sacrifice quality. Well, we found a way to not do that. So one, it's the ability to cater to all families, to give their kids quality stuff, that new colors, stay with the trends of what everyone's, and continue to give kids something to their house, right? It comes to their house monthly. And I think it's getting something in the mail is huge. And then second is hard work, right? The name Girardi, in my eyes, and when I think of him and what he's accomplished, I mean, he wasn't the best player, right? He was never the most talented player. He never was the most talented catcher. But one thing that anybody who knows him will always say, he worked the hardest. Yeah. He worked harder than anybody out there. And I think what that represents, that, the meaning of Girardi, of working hard and never giving up, and that's really what I want to be the focus of, you're going to need new batting gloves because you're going to hit a lot. You're going to steal a lot of bases. So when this rips or, when this gets dirty, don't worry, we got you covered. And I think that's the meaning, and it's not a burden on the families to, their kid, your kid wants to go hit, every day for 2 hours, and he comes back and his gloves are gone. Yeah. Well, a lot of families can't just go out and spend $100 on a pair of batting gloves. So I think that's the real.
These are nice too. Really, really nice batting gloves. You got to get them.
But I think it kind of goes back to and it almost brings a tear to my eye, that what we've tried to instill in our kids and everyone else is, it takes a lot of work to be successful. You have to make sacrifices. But we want to give everyone the opportunity to be successful. Yeah. And by all the work that he's put into this and developing it and keeping it cost affordable, kids can do it. Because you got to hit a lot today to be a great hitter. I mean, there's so many things that you need to perfect it. And this is a game of repetition. It's thousands of ground balls. It's thousands of swings every week. And you go through stuff. And you need new stuff because it's hard to hit with blisters.
Yes, it is.
It really is.
So a few Vladimir Guerreros in the world.
I'm proud of what he's done.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So it's a family business. I know your sister's involved with it
Yep.
too. She helps you out a lot. Shout out to Big Sis.
He keeps it together.
She is the glue to this stuff. Talk to me about her. Obviously, she has to influence you on certain things, and you guys have ideas together, and you make it happen, right?
Yeah, so she's very, I think one thing I have learned from him, and I try to use it as much as I can, is he's really good at knowing what he's good at and knowing what he's not good at, right? So he was never a hitting coach, so he would always make it a thing to go out and try to get the best hitting coach. Same thing for me. Some of the things I'm not good at, my sister helps on those ends, and she's really good at picking up the slack on those ends. And my partner, Matt Lamar is his name, supposed to be here, stuck on a flight, weather in New York. He saw that too, and having her come on board and really picking up the slack of where we aren't great as, founders of the business, it's been really helpful.
And us men, we always need that one woman that just helps you and keeps you organized. Because we could be everywhere, we'll bounce off the walls, and and you're just like your dad. You can't stop. So I'm sure you got more ideas coming in. So she probably slows you down a little bit.
I want to talk a little bit about what motivates you guys, like off the field, and like things that we can carry over from the game of baseball or any sport you played that you guys just apply in your everyday life that kind of motivates you as a human, your health, the mental, the physical.
Well, I think for me early on, it was the fear of failure. I did not want to fail. I wrote an essay in 3rd grade that I was going to play for the Chicago Cubs. It was always my dream. And I was going to do whatever it took, from a work ethic and sacrificing things. Because I think if you want to be great at something, you have to give some things up. Yeah. You just have to. So that fear of failure always drove me, whether it was the fear of failure of not playing well or providing for my family or all that. That's what really motivates me, because the one thing that I learned from my parents was they wanted to give me a better life than what they had. That's what I want to do. I want them to have a better life than what I had. And so I know that I have to work hard to give them that opportunity. My wife and I have to work really hard in parenting and everything that we do, and teaching them about giving back and faith and all education and all those things that we do, because we want them to have a better life than what we had.
That's awesome. That's
So
awesome.
special.
That is special, especially when it comes from, a guy like you and providing those type of words to these young kids and what you did for your own kids and stuff. I think it means a lot to some of these youth out there, knowing, hey, if I write this essay in 3rd grade, I can actually make it happen. I can actually be a big leaguer and then end up being a manager as long as you was too. I mean, that's awesome. That gives me chills. It just lets you know the dream is real. And that's awesome. That means a lot to me.
I think it fills you up in a way too. You have a new love for the game when you can pour back into the youth in a way.
Oh, I definitely think so. I think whenever you can give back, you think that you're giving back, but you're actually receiving. You're getting it back. When you're giving, it's an interesting concept.
It's awesome because we do that in my organization. We go after the guys that can't afford to play, and we try to change those kids' lives, and we blow up the Lindors, the Baez's of the world, Jazz Chisholm. These guys that didn't have nothing, we brought them over, and then they ended up blowing up and then being great. They need the gear. They didn't have that stuff, and guys like my father and you, help those kids out and then put them in those positions. I think that's great. Talk to me a little bit about getting into the sports gear world. I know we talked about it, but I want to talk about how you're going to impact travel ball with this stuff. Organization, are you going into little leagues? What are you going to do? What's the idea?
Getting into it was, obviously I grew up in it, so I think the real idea behind all of it was I grew up in the New York Yankees locker room, right? So that was what I saw.
I heard you were riding a scooter around. I heard about it.
So
The segue.
So every day I would come in, you see these players with more stuff than you could possibly imagine, right? Boxes and boxes of stuff in their lockers, and having everything they could imagine. And then as I would go back to my experience in life, so I'm in high school or I'm in college, I'd be like, dang, like we could use one of those boxes, you know? So I think it started of, you know, treating kids, all ages, you know, like they're professionals. And we cater to, the travel ball world's big for us. We cater to, you know, organizations, from little leagues to travel organizations to, you know, everything in between, high schools, colleges, and it works a little bit differently for everyone. You know, we do some cool things with, you know, where as a college you get a box, and in the box it's all little packages numbered, and it goes right in your locker, so you feel like a big leaguer. You know, as a little kid in little league, it comes right to the house. You get home from school, you got a package.
He's in as a grown man. I see my new stuff. I'm like,
Right?
ooh, I want to wear it.
I mean, you got all your stuff in it,
You
and
look good, you play good.
exactly, all the way up to, you know, from 7, 8U, even younger, to, you know, college and pros.
So this is for the world, basically, not just travel ball. This is for little leagues. This is for the small parks, the little guys around the corner, if you could give it out. So what's the main idea? Are you dropping videos on this stuff? When are you going to drop this? Is this something you're going to come out soon?
Yeah, so
'Cause I feel like they need it.
yeah, so as you know, as we're doing this and stuff, we're working on a lot of content to get out. I wanted to make sure our product was there. Our product was I didn't want to sacrifice quality, even though we were sacrificing price. So with that came a lot of road bumps and hiccups, and we're there. We're definitely there. We do obviously more that's on the table. I think, you know, depending on your age, you need different things. So we do belts, socks, tape, back grips, you know,
Wow.
everything.
So it's the whole nine.
It's the whole thing. Anything that you would need, and you can really cater to, you know, your age group, how much you're playing, and the type of gear that you need to succeed. And yeah, so I would say we have some exciting stuff coming up, some photo shoots. Obviously, you're now on board.
Yes, I am on board with it.
You're gonna be, you know, doing some cool things, some releases, some drops, stuff like that. So I think it's coming really fast and soon, and we're excited.
It's fun to see all the different color waves and just how people are starting to have fun on the field.
It's fun for me because I want to see a Girardi pink sliding mat with this little kid running. Yeah, I want to see the gloves. I want that. I think that's going to be one of the best things out there. I'm excited just with the name and stuff like that. I think it's going to mean a lot to the dads as well. There's dads that know who he is. You know, I think it's going to be awesome. So let me veer off a little bit. Let me go back. Let me see, what is your biggest moment, Joe, in baseball? One of your favorite that you remind yourself and you're like, dang, oh, the World Series or this. What was it?
Well, I think there's two.
Okay.
Opening day, my first year that I made a club in 1989, against the Philadelphia Phillies. I made the team because Damon Berryhill was hurt in spring training. Don Zimmer told me a week before that I was going to make the team, but I couldn't tell anyone. So that was really difficult. I knew I couldn't tell my father because he would take out a full-page ad, right, that I was going to be on the Cubs. And got a hit my first AB, threw out Bobby Dernier. We won the game 5-4. I got to see like my childhood nemesis, Mike Schmidt, come to the plate, right? Because he killed the Cubs, and I watched him the whole way as he walked, you know, to get in the batter's box.
Do you remember what color uniform you guys were wearing?
Well, we were white with the blue pinstripes, and I got engaged that night.
Wow.
To Kim, and we had been married almost 35 years, so it was quite the day.
What a day.
Right, so then the other thing that always sticks out is the triple that I hit in the World Series in 1996, right, against Greg Maddux, who was a teammate of mine with the Cubs, and I hadn't had a hit, and it was really, really special. So those are the two moments that stick out. I mean, there's so many great moments when you, as blessed as I was to play as long as I did, but those are the two biggest moments.
So what about you, Dante? What is yours? Because you did play. It's not like you didn't. And
Yeah.
I told you one of my favorite of you.
I think I told him nice tackle on that play.
Oh, you did. He tackled the kid. They were furious.
Wrong sport, Dante.
You remember the coach with the helmet was mad.
Man, honestly, my whole high school career was playing with, you know, obviously the kids I got to play, share the field with, you know, Christian Scott, Jake Eater, Andy Painter, playing with them for 4 years in those relationships. And then on the football side as well, I had a lot of good relationships and friendships and coaches that just, you know, really instilled a lot of things that I carry with me today.
It's a special thing to have those relationships that kind of carry you through those moments.
Yeah,
And
That's awesome.
who are some people, I want to ask you, in your life that to this day you have just seen you through the ups, the downs, the wins, the losses, player, coach, has been like a mentor to you?
My wife, number one, she's seen it all. She's thrown sock balls to me in AAA when I got sent down and was trying to help me perfect my swing in the little apartment. She came and visited, and she'd throw the ball and then duck behind the couch. Ron Wellman, who was my college coach and is still a mentor to me today. He coached me 4 years at Northwestern, went on to be the longtime AD at Wake Forest University. Still look up to him every day, call him all the time. Don Zimmer was a mentor. I was with Don Zimmer 10 out of my first 11 years, and he looked just like my grandfather. You know, short, big, you know, Popeye arms, and he was always really special to me. But I took something from every coach. Dave Lang was a high school coach that I had for football and baseball and was really important to my life. But, you know, I always tell people there's the two coaches that you remember. The one that just pours so much into you, which I had a lot of those, and the ones who it's about them.
Yeah.
And when it's about them, you're like, but the coaches, when it's about the player, those are the coaches that you love.
That's awesome. That's a great quote right there. Anything you want to touch up on? I think we wrapped this. I think we killed it.
It was incredible. Thank you guys so much for sitting
Yeah.
down.
I want to close this out. This was great. So this is your host, Nelly, in the building. I got my co-host, Ali.
What's going on? Thank you
And I want to thank the
guys.
Girardi family for being here. It means a lot to Perfect Game, and it means a lot to me as well. Obviously, we're close, so thank you guys. Don't forget,
get
look
your
out for
bet.
these, guys. Look out for these. It will be dropping soon. Shout out to Step Up Podcast. Yeah.